process. But welcome again, once again, to Villa Gonzalez for those of you guys that are now joining me, because there was other people that came separate from the bus. The tour was redesigned. If you've been to the tour before, you are gonna see many of the same places, but what we're gonna be doing in every single one of these places, it's a little bit different activities. And what I really want you guys to get out of this is first see the reason why Davidoff cigars are so perfectly made. You know, the hand craftsmanship. But today I want you guys to experience the tobacco. Sometimes in the past when we've done these tours, you guys hear me talk for 2 hours and you guys smoke a cigar and follow me around. This time around, I want you guys to touch the tobacco, smell the tobacco, you know, put your face in there, you know, motorboat the tobacco if you want. But
that's not even right.
the person that smokes it in the end won't know.
Yeah.
You know.
Unless it's you.
No, but it's really, I want you guys to have a much more sensorial experience. So please follow me. We're gonna first go to one of the warehouses where we left off yesterday.
Plus, we could smoke throughout the whole tour.
You can smoke throughout the whole tour.
There's
You
no
can
room
take,
that we have to.
yeah, don't worry about that. You can take pictures of the whole tour. At the end, I will show you packaging. And if in packaging there is a product that is being made that has not been released, I will kindly ask you not to take a picture of it.
You know that's the picture I'm taking.
Yeah.
Can we smoke it?
The ways we are chefs. We are chefs that make blends, that make the final dish, right? Except that instead of food, it is tobacco, and instead of actual solids or liquids, it's in a form of smoke, right? And it's how you perceive this smoke in your palate and in your nose. So it's all about taste and aroma. Yesterday, I finished the tour in the warehouse with all the tobacco behind me. Or actually, I was sitting on top of the tobacco. This time I won't jump up there.
He was up there.
And today we start here. At this point, we have been through the greenhouses for 45 days. We've been in the farm for about 130 days. That's including harvest, right? And then we've been in the curing barn for 45 days. After that, we go into fermentation, which can last up to 2 years, and then aging, which is behind me. Again, aging is a form of fermentation. It's just that there is no volume. It's in bales of about 100, and they're packed very tightly and very dry. So as long as there's no humidity and no volume, no heat gets created. But as long as there's a little bit of humidity, which we are in Dominican Republic, welcome to the island of humidity, this bale will have tobacco that is somewhat humid. And as long as there's humidity in the tobacco keeps evolving and it keeps changing. It's the same concept as aging your cigars, except in tobacco form. So these tobaccos, the longer they are there, the more they're gonna lose the proteins, the more they're gonna lose the famous alkaloid, nicotine, reduction in acidity, reduction in carbohydrates, and it's gonna become a much more noble, a much more smooth smoke. So when I talk about, and I'll repeat some things from yesterday, because some of you guys are new, when I talk about when you smoke a cigar that is very harsh, that rips apart your throat, there's many reasons for that, but one of them might be because people cut corners and they don't ferment their tobacco enough, or they don't age their tobacco enough. Bienvenido. En un ratico, ¿ok?
Okay.
Lo voy a parar por ahí. Muchas gracias. Other reasons why a cigar might rip apart your throat, I mean, there's a lot, but get a blender that just makes a cigar with ligero. That will do you a number too, you know. But normally fermentation is a process that takes a long time, and then aging it's even more. Here in Davidoff we have over 5 years of inventory. We are the company with the biggest inventory in comparison to our production. So that means that if we stop growing tobacco if we stop growing tobacco for the next 5 years, we could still make cigars consistently because we have enough inventory for that. That means it is over 50,000 bales of these a and multiply that times about 100, that's about how many pounds we
That
have.
explains the concrete protection here.
The concrete protection, it brings up a couple really important points. Throughout the tour in the factory, you will not see no rooms with like cedar, no rooms with woods. It's everything concrete walls and then insulation. Nothing that gives out smells. And that's the reason why I brought this barrel alone and not no more. And I brought this here for the presentation. This is normally in another place. Tobacco has the ability to absorb aromas from anything. If you have perfume in your hands, your cigar is going to taste like perfume. You know, so if you put something like this barrel in a room where you're aging tobacco, your tobacco is going to absorb that aroma. So you don't want that. No place in the factory has other aromas other than tobacco. So you have to be very careful with that. In aging, we have an average of about 5 years, right, of aging. We have tobaccos in here that are 20 plus. Normally those tobaccos that are very aged, we have very low quantities of them. They are not being used in regular lines. They're probably being used in limited editions. You know? Because limited editions are, in essence, short runs. So you need the inventory to maintain a line as stable and as constant as possible throughout the years. And then a limited edition is just for that year. So if you run out of that tobacco, no problem. But coming to this past year, 2017, we launched a cigar which was the Winston Churchill Delayed Hour. Delayed Hour is a cigar that we collaborate with the Churchill family. So it was with the grandson, Winston. Now it is with the great-grandson, Randolph. Really great family. And we have the opportunity to work with their family. And in their late hour cigar, because Winston Churchill was known for their whiskey and their cigars, we made a cigar that has one tobacco in the blend, where we aged that tobacco in here for 5 to 6 months, depends.
A whiskey barrel.
In a whiskey barrel from Scotland. So my friend here is gonna open this up with the hook driver.
Now with these here, do you turn these?
Do we turn the beds? Every year we check the nails to make sure that they're evolving properly, they're aging properly. And once it opens up, you'll understand why we don't keep this somewhere else. With the smell. Immediately, you can probably start smelling in the whole room. So the group before us already played a little bit with this. It's already a little bit more tightly packed. Yeah, so that's why he's grabbing from the bottom, because the group before us played. So this is Condega tobacco from Nicaragua. And we use a very low percentage in the cigars, less than 20%. And if you smoke Condega by itself, Condega tends to hit in the center of the palate. It's a pretty good tobacco for blending. It's very overall. Please, you guys can come play with the tobacco, touch. I want you guys to experience this smell. Condega normally is spicy. The central tongue has the ability to stimulate in the acidic area. But when you put this for 5 months, 6 months in the barrel, it gets tones of sweetness and spiciness. A much higher pepper, much more spiciness. If you were to smoke this 100%, it might hit you a little bit because very peppery, very spicy. But it adds very nice tones of sweetness. When we make blends, we're looking to make a blend that is balanced. That means that it stimulates in the front of the palate, sweet, stimulates in the salty area just a tad bit, stimulates in the back, in the bitter, and in the lateral back and the acid. That's what we're trying to make a cigar that is 100% balanced. And in this case, it adds a whole new dimension to the new Winston Churchill. The previous Winston Churchill was a cigar that was only with seco tobaccos, very smooth, bottom of the plant, but from countries, tobaccos from 4 different countries: Mexico, Ecuador, Dominican Republic, and Nicaragua. This has exactly the same blend, just that it has a barrel and the levels are raised from seco up to
This is
viso.
Condega. The Condega.
This is Condega.
Viso seco.
This is
Viso.
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 This is more or less in the middle, but esto es un seco.
This is all filler.
This is all filler. This is gonna go inside.
Este es un seco entonces.
Esto es un seco medio viso. Some of them are a little thin.
Even with the breeze, you can smell that aroma coming off.
So imagine if we put this in another aging room with other barrels,
Yeah.
it would contaminate all the other tobacco. So this has to be separate, and it's a separate project. Every month we open up the barrels and we see how it is evolving. That's why I always say 5 to 6 months. And every month we rotate it and we switch it to another barrel. We have 20 of these barrels, and we basically flip from barrel to barrel so that they, in essence, all the barrels get used. And that way all the tobacco is as even as possible. Because when you're making a blend, it has to be consistent. You cannot have one barrel that's stronger than another. And that's what we try to do with this. It's a really cool project, which if you were to put your hand in the middle, normally there is a lot of heat that builds up in there. So it is a sort of fermentation. Okay?
Do you think it's changed a lot? Do you think the
taste?
The taste.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is night and day.
It absorbs a lot of.
It's night and day. You can smoke Condega by itself and the same Condega next to it from the barrel, and it's night and day. As I was explaining, the normal Condega is pretty balanced. This one is a punch to the sweet and the pepper. It's
Full body.
much more full body. It picks up about 2 or 3 points in strength just by being in the barrel.
Yeah.
Do you reuse the same barrels, or after a certain period of time they get rotated
Well,
out?
we've only been doing this for a year, so we assume
okay.
that we're going to be having to buy new barrels or have barrels shipped over.
Do you prepare?
All the 20 barrels that you're using for this project is the same whiskey that was in there?
Yes. So what we will do is put in the tobacco humid with normal water, and that humidity will come off. But there's really no, it's just the barrel, nothing else is added to it.
But there was whiskey.
There was whiskey.
Do you prepare
You
the
get
barrel?
some of that into the tobacco.
And I'm just not allowed to tell you what whiskey was.
Yeah. Do you prepare the barrel before?
Hobby project. Ooh.
Do you prepare the barrel before put the tobacco inside?
No, it just gets sent over.
Yeah.
All the barrels are pretty much exactly the same. So this is a really cool project. We also have the same project here for Camacho, American barrel aged, but that one is with bourbon. So we also have bourbon barrels, and then now in Honduras at the Camacho factory, they're doing one with rum.
Yeah.
So
I saw
it's kicked
that.
off. You know, it's almost. I mean, I don't want to say it's a fad, but it's something that a lot of people are starting to experiment with.
Okay.
So at this point, how long will this go on? This is going to be here for how long, and how long will it go to till it's out on the market?
So this tobacco in particular is gonna be in here for 6 months, and then once it's done with 6 months, it's ready to be rolled into a cigar. And then you could argue maybe 3 or 4 months later it might be out of the
Right,
market.
so in about 8 months, when we see this tobacco out in the market, we know where it came from and what was the process
Yeah.
of it.
Yes, yeah. As long as it's not a cigar that was produced before that.
Correct.
The Davidoff brand. Why don't we walk, and as we walk, I'll be talking about Davidoff a little bit, Davidoff history, okay? So let's move over to the filler department.